June 6, 2016. May we have a motion to adopt the minutes from May 2nd and May 16th?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. If there's no further discussion, may we take a vote?
Mr. Sprockman?
Yes.
Mr. Beecher?
Yes.
Mr. Crockett?
Yes. And now I need a motion to approve payment of bills to the tune of $48,477.94, with $19,173 coming from general and $10,369 from fire, $4,343 from cemetery. EMS billing, $3,316, road and bridge, $2,273.
So moved. Second.
If there's no further discussion on the payment of bills, I would like to point out that I am leaving off the cents.
Well.
If there's no further discussion, may we take a vote?
Mr. Crockett?
Yes.
Mr. Beecher?
Yep.
Mr. Sprockman?
Yes.
All right. Correspondence. The trustees received information from PPO Network, Prime Health Services, email from MVRFPC
I
regarding...
didn't know if they added a fire department in that
Oh,
organization.
yeah, they did.
Apparently they're busy.
I bet that's right next to the B or the R. Beg your pardon?
So how did that happen?
Yeah, that's a typo.
Okay. And I would take this opportunity to point out that acronyms annoy me to no end, because I have no idea what...
I think of that every time I type these, because some of them I spell out, because I think of you, Mark. Is that first?
All I can say is TFB.
Oh.
Wow.
All right, one more
That's an acronym.
digression. Bernal Eamon, before he had his fire equipment business, had an auto parts business. It was called Ally Supply Auto Parts. And I actually have a sign from that. And just the other day I looked at it and the acronym is ASAP.
Yeah.
I don't think he intended that.
Okay. Ohio Local Technical Assistance Program newsletter. Information from Recker and Eckler. Emails from Assistant Prosecuting Attorney Hayden regarding the agritourism training and B&B zoning.
Well, the training part of that, if you didn't read that part of it,
Yeah.
there is that training Wednesday night at 6.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm firing up the Township Transportation van. If anybody wants a ride, they're more than welcome to jump in. So think of that, let me know.
Okay.
That's Wednesday at 6. We have to go to Sugartree Township for that.
Right. No, I did read that, and I think it's a good idea that somebody is attending.
If you want more information and you can't attend, you're welcome to talk to me, who's already had a dose of that training.
Okay. Email from Auditor Herbert, report request.
That was submitted. He finally did it.
Did he?
Mhm.
Oh, good. I see what's in here when I was there today. I was hoping to have it.
Okay, email from the Ohio Cemetery Association regarding upcoming convention. Boone County Council on Aging newsletter, insights. Boone County Board of Health meeting announcement and agenda. May 5th meeting minutes. Emails from Xenia Township regarding road closures. Notice from YSI stating its readiness to close Ohio EPA order.
I participated in that public meeting last Wednesday for a public comment on the final report.
It's been a long time, hasn't it?
We did have one member of the public there,
Really?
under personal invitation from one of the.
I thought about going, because I attended so many of those meetings in the past, maybe just to wrap it up, and I figured it was probably gonna be that way,
Yeah.
because they work very hard to do a good job on it.
Yes, they did. Yeah, and so that's behind them.
It seemed like it was a difficult task to undertake.
Was.
Okay, emails from Auditor Carroll regarding healthcare reimbursements and compliance with the ACA. And I read that several times. I can't say that I'm totally interested.
And I replied to him. Did you notice that?
Yes.
After consultation with Steve Ackley, I replied to him about we do not use a section 125 plan?
We use a 105.
We use a 105.
Which
This is different.
Mr. Ackley said was, we're good,
Yeah,
correct?
yep.
Okay, but does Mr. Ackley, has he told Auditor Carroll about that?
Because
I
Or
did.
you did, okay. Does he seem happy now?
I haven't heard anything.
I saw the 125 referenced several times.
Yeah, I don't know why he pulled that out of all the million numbers there are,
I think he was trying to educate himself as well, actually.
I think so.
Email from Trustee Mutcher to Greg Sample regarding the WSU site plan.
I'd sent him a revised drawing that we had asked Colin to have the architects make up about the potential use of the property.
And they didn't get back to you.
Oh, it wasn't, it was just for his reference to show the board of trustees in the time they needed to. He had asked for it after our meeting, and it took MSA forever to do it, so I don't know if we got there too late or not.
Emails from U.S. Bank representative to All Hands Fire Equipment regarding return check. Let's see. Green Soil and Water Conservation District newsletter. And email from Ron Fenton with Glen House Pictures. And of course our fund status, revenue status, appropriation status report for June 6th. Normally, we would move on to fire department report.
Colin's out there training, I don't know
Yeah.
what his schedule is.
Did you want to come in for this, or, I don't know, I haven't talked to him.
I
Do you know, Chris?
So,
I haven't seen it. I don't know.
they talked about exiting the room so we could govern. But,
The only note I had was follow up on that.
Oh, okay, yeah, I thought maybe you talked to him, that's why I
I
asked you.
haven't seen it.
But somehow you knew that he completed that request from the auditor.
Yeah, that I got through an email. Because she sent a follow-up, and I sent to him.
And he saw it.
He saw it, sent me back a message that said he was gonna bug Medicare, Medi-Cal
Yeah.
about it
Again, yeah.
again, and then he sent me a follow-up to that and said, success.
Excellent.
And the only question I had was that invoice that I questioned last time about the oil change from Edith's garage that didn't look like it happened on the invoice. Remember, he was
I
charged?
remember that, I asked him about it, he said, he just basically didn't think about, he didn't think to drive up to wherever,
Oh,
Bochausen. He said, he says, I didn't even think of it, so, I mean, we had to pay him anyway, so I sent that check away.
Well,
That's what
yes, yes and no. They charge us for an oil change and 1 quart of oil. The vehicle has to take more than 1 quart of oil. Either we got 4 quarts free and oil filters for free, or we paid $39 for adding a quart of oil.
Was it an extra quart? Is it a 6-quart system, or
We didn't pay for the 5.
is it part of your $39?
No.
Those mechanics are expensive, I know that. Right, for an hour's worth of labor?
Yeah.
I guess,
Okay.
I don't know.
But if he, I think it was $49.
Okay.
The bill was, if he hired somebody, paid somebody to drive up there, got the free oil change, the time to spend money for gas, labor to get it up there, it might have been more, $50. Maybe that's what he was thinking.
There was that too.
Okay, aside from the resolution, Colin's busy with the training session and doesn't have anything to say.
This is good news.
Nope. How about we move on to?
How about we pass the resolution?
Oh, yeah, do we need a motion to do that?
We sure do.
Okay, so we have Resolution 2016-11, appointment of MTFR volunteer personnel. Whereas the continuing need exists to maintain proper staffing within the fire and rescue department, and whereas Jacob Hardman and Aaron King have completed all the necessary application materials, background checks, and interviews to be appointed as volunteers for the fire rescue department, and whereas Chief Altman has recommended the appointment of these candidates, and whereas funds are available for the purpose of training and equipping volunteer personnel within the fire department operating budget, now therefore be resolved that Jacob Hardman and Aaron King shall be appointed to volunteer positions within the Fire Rescue Department effective June 5th, 2016.
What's the resolution number again? I'm sorry. go
I
ahead.
move it be adopted.
2016-11.
Okay, second.
If there is no further discussion, may we take a vote?
Mr. Mutcher?
Yes.
Mr. Spratlin?
Yes.
Mr. Crockett?
Yes.
Now,
Okay.
may I ask a question, Mr. President?
Sure.
Or a request? I would
This
like-
is under fire department,
This is under cemetery.
under cemetery.
Before we start on the report, I'd like to make a motion to move to executive session for purposes of employee review.
Okay.
Acceptable?
Second.
Okay.
So, do we need anything else?
We need to vote.
All in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Aye. Daniel, would you join us, please?
Okay.
Let's see what we did. Sure.
So we are now back from executive session, and let's do
7:25.
cemetery report first, and then road report.
Let's see. We've had 2 burials up here since the last meeting at Glen Forest.
Mm-hmm.
Got one tomorrow on Clifton. I have to meet with Mrs. Mater Wednesday.
Is that a full burial?
Yeah, full burial. 1 full here and 1 ashes here at Glen Forest.
Is that the Boyer Smith? Do you know what time it is?
Boyers, no, it's Scales. Boyers was Saturday. Boyer,
Oh, Boyer Smith was done?
Saturday. I had to go to time sheet says he don't pay. I don't have paperwork on it. The family brought the ashes. So. No, tomorrow is Patty Scales. And Clifton, we buried her husband. Just January last year.
Oh,
It was
the
like
name's
a-
familiar.
Yeah, it was like a second burial or something last year. Clifton.
That is familiar.
Can you close cemetery Friday if I get everything done Friday and close up the entrances? Because the
Yeah.
tree fair this weekend, because I won't be here Friday. I'll get everything done. I just been closing the entrances because Fairfield, they didn't put the police order signs up, so I haven't been stringing tape all the way through. It seems to be working.
Mhm.
You didn't tape that this last time, huh?
No.
It was just the entrances.
Just the entrances. And I'll set everything there, like the crossbuck and a couple other things you can use.
Yeah.
And I use the string, but,
Yeah, I'll take it down, and I'll put it up and take it down, that's fine.
and I put the crossbuck in the new addition, and then I tie to the fence on each side. I just set it up there. If they park out front, as long as they're not getting in there
Yeah.
parking.
Yeah.
But I just tied the entrances off last time, and nobody bothered it. So it's a little simpler than those.
I just hope they're gonna put the police, no parking signs up.
They should have them up there. I'll see, but.
It's there along Fairfield Pike that's a problem.
Yeah.
That's where
Graves
they've
come
been-
right up to the,
Yeah, and we used to, tape that off, but they put the no parking signs there, and people seem to be,
they're
Yeah.
being responsible, okay.
We can try.
if you do that, I'll have everything sitting up there for you.
Yeah.
I do run the string, the tape, between, like I said, the road closed sign, and I tape off to something, just
Yeah,
to keep them from driving around it.
yeah,
If you do that, that'd be good.
no problem.
I don't have anything else.
While we're on cemetery, and I'm a little embarrassed because I guess I didn't pay enough attention, but it was Memorial Day weekend. I was at at Glen Forest, and a woman asked me if there was a way to locate a grave. She had a name and didn't know where it was. And I said, yes, I believe there is now, but I don't know what to tell you about how to do it. And after that, I went home and looked at our website, but it didn't seem to have a link to the. So anyway, I need to know, just in case this ever happens again, what do I tell people?
I'll call Dan,
Call who?
Me.
Dan Gogonow.
Call Dan. Okay, any time, just call, and the cell phone number?
477-0597.
Yeah,
0597.
0597.
And it's also on the website.
It's on the website.
And, okay, to call you.
Dan's phone.
But the database or whatever that you've been working on, is it
It's
public
not.
yet?
Not public yet.
Okay.
Don't call him Friday.
Right.
Understand that. Okay, no, I was gonna say, she was aware of internet resources. You can look up and find out what cemetery sometimes people are buried in, but she just, it is one of those, she happened to be in town, hadn't prepared.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you remember the name?
No, there were enough of us there that probably if you wouldn't reconstruct it could happen, but I don't remember.
Yeah.
Can you put Thurlow Jefferson's name on your list
On my list of what?
to get a flag?
We get it, it should be flagged and isn't?
He's in the section R down by the building. I found a government flag marker to put out there, so.
If there's a marker
Well,
on the
there wasn't.
grave, then
There
people,
wasn't.
there
I
wasn't,
found one
they
to
still
put
got
there.
missed.
Yeah.
Okay, section R,
Oh,
oh, well,
section O.
No, it's R.
R's
well,
up in the corner.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Oh,
It
by the
it is
building.
O. You're right.
section
Sorry.
O by the building.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll see if that will help people in the future.
Well, there's a flag holder now.
Yes.
Yeah, flag,
That's why
I
I
think they
told you.
always get them in all
'Cause
the
I-
holders as long as they see the
I
holders.
talked to Heaton and said, can you get this? And I'm sure you guys just had forgotten it.
Yeah, well, it
There's
may be
no
off the
holder,
beaten
and I forgot to
path,
put one there, and
but, okay,
that won't happen.
we'll try to do it in the future.
Okay.
Do you want to have any discussion about the cannon?
Well, sure.
Okay.
To bring everybody up to speed, sometime in the not too distant past, one person or another looked at the cannon and said, my goodness, part of the supports that hold this up are awfully rusty. Maybe we need to do something about it. And because the Oddfellows have a section of plots there in the cemetery, and have always done a memorial service right there by the cannon, we're thinking, okay, maybe that should be a project for us. And I guess sort of three things have happened since then. One was several people with some expertise have carefully looked at the conditions there. And indeed, the cannon does need work on its supports. It's interesting. Part of it is so rusted that the rust, which expands when the steel has lifted the cannon up. Okay, that 7.5 tons of cannon is higher up than it used to be. It's also slightly twisted. It's moved a little bit. It doesn't seem to be in imminent danger of falling down, but on the other hand, it's really hard to tell what it would take or how long it will take before there's a problem. So something needs to be done. The second thing was, okay, let's say the Oddfellows have the wherewithal to do this. Is it all right? We don't actually know who owns the cannon.
Well, the Oddfellows own the cannon
Well, how do we know that?
because it was given to them by the GAR when they disbanded. And
Okay. I haven't been able to come up with any paperwork for that transaction. Dave Newhart has copies of the GAR minutes up to the last minute book. So he doesn't have the one for when they disbanded, so I didn't. Anyway, I've talked to communicated by email with a variety of historic sources here in town. And it turns out, since Dave has got the minute books, the Ohio Historical, used to be Society, now Connection, probably doesn't have that information. But we have a call pending to them, but they're not very responsive. But anyway, we've found out lots of information. The cannon was put there in 1908. It was endowed with the Glen Forest Cemetery Association, $150 endowment back then to keep the cannon painted, and another $100 endowment to keep their Plot M, I think is what it's called, in good condition. And Chris showed me those documents.
it definitely needs painted.
Yeah, well, the actual cannon is in very good shape. Probably, if it's had any significant deterioration, and God knows what significant is when you've got 7.5 tons of iron, would be inside it, because it's tilted up, so water runs, when it rains, water runs in it.
Yeah.
But that's a little hard to see and assess, and we haven't been that concerned about it. But as I say, these supports, and so that was, did we have the right to do it? And then finally, were those supports in any way historic or appropriate? In other words, if repairing it required changing it at all, in other words, not having it look exactly like it looks now, we wanted to make sure that whatever we did was appropriate. So that's why so the research is going on, and then of course there's always somebody that comes up and says, well, what's the liability on this? And so could it be a joint Idaho F township project, so that there's a little bit, or joints, I guess it would be cemetery, but cemetery is township, on doing that. And so I guess I could formally put that in front of you. But what we haven't done is figured out exactly how we're going to proceed and how we're going to fund whatever it turns out we need to do. And it could be that we could engage competent metal workers and get it all done as gifts. It's possible that it could cost thousands of dollars.
Right.
And that's also still unknown. And there isn't a consensus yet. I proposed that we lift the cannon slightly using jacks and crib it, support it on its pedestal so that those two side pieces can be removed, because it's a lot easier to evaluate them when they're not in place. But, as I said, they're incredibly rusty. I could put my hands underneath many parts of the supports. Where, it's not just there with a gap, the metal is gone. You feel the edges of the rusty metal.
So if you did that, that would be part of getting some estimate of cost?
Well, yeah, I thought the better way of getting estimates was to have the side pieces probably weigh maybe 500 pounds. It's not a big issue to pick one of those up and put it in the back of a pickup truck.
Any idea how they're attached? I haven't looked that closely, but
They're it appears, and this is why there's still some details, you know, no matter how I stick my head in there and how many lights I shine, that those side supports are just sitting on the slab. They're not attached to it in any way. It's just a gravity system. And that also the cannon is just sitting on those. In other words, the canyon has trunnions, two round pieces on the side, and they sit in cradles, and those cradles then are attached to angle iron and all the rest of this. It's all 3/8 inch steel that makes up this framework. And so it could all literally be just gravity. And in fact, from the pictures and the records, when they first had it up there, they were anxious to dedicate it or whatever, and they just had wooden supports under it. Although they were on either side, not, you know, under the barrel of the cannon. And then and it's hard to tell so far from the copies of pictures that I've looked at through email, whether the sides on it were what they had fabricated in 1908 or 1909 or whenever they got those done, or that they were subsequent, you know, they were a replacement of something else. But given that the GAR was gone sometime in the 30s, and that they put it up in 1908, those side pieces are probably the original steel. It's interesting to note, although two of the letters are missing, those letters that say GAR and are painted white, they're brass. I don't know, I think sometime they got tarnished enough that someone didn't recognize that they were brass anymore and highlighted them with white paint so they would show up.
So if it's just sitting on that base, how come it doesn't move when 8 kids get up there on, you know, on the tip of the cannon?
Because to move that kind of weight is really hard to do. And that's why
well, if it's not fairly perfectly balanced, then if there was that much weight in the back,
there's
the front would come
also,
up.
it's balanced on its trunnions probably very well, because that's how it's designed to, okay, we'll give you a little more. This cannon was never actually in the Civil War.
Right.
It wasn't made until 1866. It was part of a East East Coast shore defense system. And it actually came from Maine, and JR worked it out with a congressman to get this cannon. He was involved, Congressman Denver, I believe. And it was shipped by rail to the Yellow Springs Railroad Station, and then by horse up there. And I imagine they probably had to just crib it up to get it in place, because I don't know how else they would have lifted it, but it would have been an interesting.
I never noticed till the other day that the weight is stamped on the.
Yeah, on the muzzle is that information about the original casting.
Yeah.
The cannon itself, they didn't make a lot just like that. There were some different sizes in that style. It may be one of 99 remaining cannons of its ilk. So there may be interest in funding from cannon people to take care of it, as opposed to, there's obviously, well, in I think it was 1994, a relative of the GAR member here came and cleaned up the cannon and painted it.
Is that right?
Yeah. There's an article in the Yellow Springs News.
Oh.
And so that's, you know,
What year was that?
I think it was 94 or 97, one of those two. I've got the reference, I just didn't come here with a report to give you. Anyway, so that's out there and in process. Yes, Chris, if you've got anything on paper about that transfer, because so far in our own minutes, the Otto minutes, we haven't found it. But that takes a long time to say something isn't there.
Yeah.
So, if you were querying the Canon people in terms of funds, you would still need to get an estimate.
Well, yeah, in other words, that they might say, you know, anytime we come across one of these cannons, you know, we've got the treasury and we get it done and they know what's involved or something. That's a nice little fantasy, but no, I think probably you'd have to have a reasonable, you know, solid estimate of what was going to happen, and that if there are people interested in restoration, they're going to want to know how you're doing.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a couple of those side pieces sitting in a warehouse somewhere just waiting to come out.
Now, those side pieces are, there's no welding. They're all riveted together, all the pieces. And it's all 3/8 inch sheet steel or angle iron, except for two pieces that appear to be castings. One, the piece sitting under the trunnion, that curved, chunkier piece, and a couple of pieces that are round that are kind of cover the ends, the end caps of the trunnion. But so I think that it's lasted this long because it was probably good steel and it didn't get hot. Welding compromises a lot of steel and how well it lasts, in my experience. But the failure was that the way it was made, water collected underneath and it stayed damp enough to get that rust started. Because the rust is all right down at the bottom of the supports, hardly any.
You replace the
iron.
cannonballs on the four corners too?
Well, if somebody wants to find 4 cannonballs to put on the, yeah, originally there's a cannonball on each corner of the platform where the cannon is sitting. A little stack of cannonballs have always been there. Tom Donnelly was the mason who built it. He was also, if I remember right, the mason who built the school board office, the old library. And the little pedestal that had the cannonballs, he did the original of, but it must have had some problem or something, because it's been replaced, and the replacement needs to be replaced. Those cannonballs weigh about I can't remember, it's 121, 128 pounds apiece. It's a 10-inch sphere for the cannonballs, or the cannon's a 10-inch, I don't know exactly what size the balls are. And they're all welded together in this little cluster, so you've got about a half a ton to pick up to move those, but that's not hard to do.
It's probably never been fired.
There's some evidence that, first of all, that it hadn't been fired, but then there was something about Colonel Grant doing some kind of visit to the fortification in Maine, and then doing some kind of a gun salute and firing the cannon. So it may have been fired in a friendly fashion, but it certainly was never fired to hit something, as far as I know.
I thought your comrade, Bob
Hasser. Bob is the person who's sort of been spearheading this at the
He
beginning.
said he remembered as a kid that they used to light it off every once in a while.
Dry fire it, maybe?
I think that people, I don't know, they may have done something, but it's aimed at the village. I mean, you're not going to shoot a cannonball out of it. If you
Well, you
could,
could dry
maybe
fire.
somebody puts something in it to make a bang.
Fire
But it-
without a ball.
But it also doesn't have a primer port anymore. I don't know whether that was sealed up or what, so there's no way to light the charge.
Yeah, that's why I was wondering, because I didn't see anywhere with the lighting in there. Okay, well, anyway, thank you.
You're welcome.
So what you need from us is really from Chris. You need
Right, specifically, any other paperwork that was, that you have that wasn't in that little folder. And, because that clear evidence of ownership, we probably should have on paper. And then when we get a little further, maybe we'll be back to talk with the township about how they might want to be involved or not involved.
Because in terms of liability, what are we talking about? We're talking about.
Well, I don't know, are you liable for the cannon now? Suppose it falls down. I mean, is that the owner's fault?
See, and that's what I truly don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what, I mean, in the cemetery, if a headstone were to fall on somebody, I don't, can they sue the cemetery? I don't have to worry about these things, but other people do.
You probably could.
By the way, and I don't know if it has anything to do with anything, there's a flagpole sort of in that tree that's by the cannon.
There's two flagpoles in two different trees.
The two different, well, there's one there.
Yeah, that's
that-
right there, it's gonna have to come down.
Yeah, okay,
Not usable.
I didn't know anything about it. That tree has grown since the cannon was there.
There was a flagpole on the cannon.
On the cannon.
Yeah, look at one of those.
All the pictures. On the back,
Yeah.
There's a little bracket there
Yeah.
that you put a pole. Yeah, just a.
No, but there's a pole in it. There's
Yeah,
not a flag.
a flag in it. Yeah, but this, when I say flagpole, almost
yeah.
as tall as the tree. You just can't quite see it in there.
Yeah, as I said, or as Dan says, there's another of them just
One
north.
away, yeah.
Oh, okay.
There's
So
two.
they
they're
have
both
flown
growing
up
trees, so they're
a
not
state and a federal flag back when. Well, okay, but there used to be Memorial Day ceremonies done by the JR every year. And in the early days, the tradition was to to sprinkle flower petals on the graves of the veterans. It didn't switch, I don't know when it switched to flags, but it did at some point. And consequently, there were flower girls. They usually got little girls to do that job.
Yeah, Newhart, he's quite the source of.
Well, Gene Payne from the Historical Society gave me information. Robin Heise, who's my next door neighbor and works at Wright State, gave information. I didn't get anything from Perry Stewart. I thought maybe Perry would have come across something, the time he was dealing with cemetery records. Dave Newhart, so that's, and there's some, I haven't gone to the Greene County room to see if the library has any additional information. But every one of those people all had overlapping information. They obviously share things, but every one of them had, one more piece that I didn't get from the first person.
Back to the insurance issue. What sort of insurance do we have now in terms of both Clifton and Glen Forest?
They're insured.
They're insured.
Just because it's the township or something.
I
They
think
don't
we
do
turn
it.
that thing around, tell the community we're gonna, next Memorial Day, we're gonna fire that thing off. Maybe we can have money.
We can aim it for Sprackland Acres up there. It's supposed to have a range of 2.5 miles.
We want, we're just gonna build a pond out there.
That's scary.
How much powder is that thing?
I don't know.
We might get enough money to,
Oh, I'm sure somebody would. Oh, I'm sure we could raise some money to fire the cat.
that'd be fun, wouldn't that thing? Shoot that
That's
thing
probably
off.
pretty loud. Right?
I'm going to make sure my supports are really in good shape
Great
for that.
vendors in town and everything.
There's a picture of a similar cannon, or maybe that one, in the East Coast, and they sit actually on a cart that roll from side to side to aim the cannon left and right. And then you notice on the back of it, there's those notches, and that's for
Elevation.
adjusting angle.
Distance.
Okay, I've got a couple other things for cemetery before we move along. I didn't tell you at the last meeting, I don't know why, but we have been donated, we have had a donation, although it's not physically in our possession yet, but of a outdoor bench that was requested to be placed at the cemetery for the enjoyment of visitors. And so this was donated by students at Mills Lawn School who took it upon themselves to raise the money and purchase the bench and assemble it, and maybe even got money for cement, and we're all set. So
Where will it go?
it is requested to be put across from section S, right next to the maintenance building, like underneath that tree on the corner.
Oh, yeah, and the maple.
Mhm. So when I actually get it,
Section
I'll let you
S.
know. And on June 18th, from 1 to 3, it's Father's Day, there is going to be a seminar on
That's
a
Saturday.
death.
On what?
June 18th is a Saturday.
Okay, that's Sunday.
The 19th is Father's Day.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Sunday is Father's Day, and this thing is on Saturday.
Saturday's 18th.
Yeah.
the 18th.
She said it was
Anyway.
Father's Day, so I'm off. So anyway,
At the weekend.
yeah, the weekend, exactly. At Rockapet Chapel about home funerals. And in conjunction with that, there's going to be a presentation on natural burial and
Are you giving it?
specifically, no, and specifically on our natural burial cemetery. It's going to be given by a woman who runs a home funeral advocacy out of Seattle, Washington, and she actually used to live in Yellow Springs. Richard, you may remember this, I was at St. Mark. Her husband and another gentleman were killed in a hang gliding accident.
Oh, I know what we're
in
talking
88.
about. I
Uh,
believe.
Fires?
Scott Byers and Nick
Yes,
Adams.
yeah.
This is Nick Adams' wife.
Hmm.
Doesn't live here now, but lives in Seattle, but familiar with us. So anyway, I just thought I'd let you know about that and let the public know because we're a little bit ahead of that and we might get on the air. Did you get, speaking of which, did you get a DVD for a meeting recently that I haven't seen?
No.
Because usually I've got I'm able to put it up before we go to another meeting.
Yeah, no, I haven't gotten anything.
Oh. Okay. Well, She must be busy or something. That's all I have. That's all I have.
Okay. Any other questions under cemetery? If not, let's go to road report.
Mowing ditches,
Yeah, if the farmers are making hay, Dan's mowing the ditches.
Started getting done. No word on the backhoe, all I got was, we're still doing pressure tests on it. So he's supposed to be calling me and giving me prices, and I'll find out what, I'd like to find out soon, because we really need it.
Pressure test.
Trying to figure out what's wrong.
I think it was just the mechanics issues. Because it's still in the same place, so can you bring it inside? Can you pump in and check it out? He's supposed to call
And
me.
you,
I'll call tomorrow about, if I'm in by about noon, I'll call him.
Was it Lamont that you did the ditch on?
We finished going on up the other day. Taken care of.
So you got snip done, what else?
Snip, Houston, Branham, King Pool, Ryan Park, Hybrid.
Okay, so you're moving
Tomorrow will
along.
be burial and probably North River Road.
Mhm.
I'll be great that really over and out on North River before the burial. And I will be here Friday. I'll try to get as far as I can. Hopefully, the only thing will be left to be Tanya.
Larkins? Larkins?
Wednesday. Larkins, Tobias and Harbison on Wednesday, and Thursday be, North, or South River and Kyle.
So just a section on 10.
And then it'll just be Tanner Road. That's the plan.
You heard from the county when the chip sealing's gonna start, any of that?
No, she seemed to think like mid to late July.
Yeah.
We're on a wedge on the 14th. We're gonna do some wedging on 14th. We got a wedge that little spot in front of the Clifton Mill, 14th of June.
Flag day.
You're wedging the Clifton Mill?
Just a spot in front of it.
Oh.
For Clifton, they'll pay us.
Yeah.
They're gonna pay us for it, for material. Because they're having that Clay Street right there, or Water Street, chip seal. But keep the potholes there, when I can, needs to be covered up.
And where's the other wedging?
Grinnell Circle.
Yeah.
There were some other places, but just do what we need. Be done ahead of them, I don't wanna get caught.
Yeah.
It has to be down for about 6 weeks or so.
Yeah.
I've got an extra piece.
So that's the plan. 14, 15.
Did anyone arrange for the seal coating?
I called him.
Oh, did it? Okay.
You said it was okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, I called him, told him okay.
All right.
He didn't say how soon, but he
Yeah.
said, okay.
Where's this at?
Glen Forest,
Okay.
I think we made a good choice. We won't do far again, that was whitewash, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm surprised how high roads all bleached out, the striping and the blacktop and everything.
Quick, didn't it?
Yeah. It's amazing.
I wanted that in 2 lifts, but they put it down in 1 lift. I wanted them to run a level course and then come back. It makes a better road, but it's a good road. It's just, they were pushing for time. So.
And asphalt gets compacted better too.
When you're doing 2 lifts, right?
Yeah, so it doesn't get as much.
Did anybody
Yeah, that's
notice in the most recent Ohio Township magazine that we were cited as a township who participates in sharing with their fellow townships about our crack sealer?
Oh,
Yeah, you gotta check it out. We made the big time.
is there a picture
We made the news. Yeah, there's a picture.
of a crack sealer?
Okay.
I can't think of anything else.
Any other questions for Ruth? If not, let's move on to the ever exciting fiscal officer's report.
I have a resolution
Mhm.
for your consideration. I'll read it for you.
Okay,
Whereas it is an ongoing process to accurately appropriate funds according to the needs of the township, now therefore, the trustees authorize an amendment to the following permanent appropriations. In the general fund, I increase the salaries of cemetery by $7,000. And that is specifically so I can cut a check to pay the Clifton Cemetery Board, like a contribution towards the maintenance costs for the cemetery. And then when we receive a payment from Clifton Cemetery for the total amount of the maintenance costs, that will basically offset what was taken out of this fund. Okay, just so you know, that increase wasn't necessary for just annual budgeting. It was above and beyond because we needed more money too. I'm sure I'm confusing everybody, but
Do we
It's a
expect to
pass-through.
receive the full amount of the maintenance cost from the cemetery?
from the
board?
cemetery board, I believe we do expect the full amount.
Okay, good.
But I'm not the board.
You can expect it.
But last I heard that's what was expected there. Anyway, and then also, there was just a small amendment, in the EMS billing, the telephone, there was not a line item for a phone appropriations in the EMS billing fund until we received these those pad, whatever those things are, those.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, whatever
Yeah, I
I'm sorry,
gotcha.
whatever you call them, it's,
Denny's new pads.
well, they enter information, when they go on a run, they enter information into this little computer, laptop kind of thing, and anyway,
So they're gonna pay that little AT&T or
that little
Verizon?
AT&T bill is gonna come out of EMS billing, and there wasn't a phone line before, so now there is one for $150.
Gotcha.
That's it.
I move to approve.
Second.
All right, if there's no further discussion about resolution 2016-12, may we take a vote?
Mr. Crockett?
Yes.
Mr. Sprackman?
Yes.
Mr. Mucher?
Yes.
And the only other thing I want to say is that I'm gonna run an ad in the June 20 issue of the Yellow Springs News, publicizing a public hearing at our July 6th meeting to review the tax budget for 2017. And that will satisfy the requirements that you need to do you have to have it 10 days, you have it in the paper 10 days before you have the public hearing. And so at our next meeting, hold on to your hats, because you get to review the tax budget.
All right.
So I have one ready for you.
Are you serious?
Absolutely.
Well,
Well, I mean, what else, you want me to wait until the meeting when you have to adopt it? No.
Like
Of course you don't.
Explain it to the public that's gonna be here in
Okay,
the
all right, well,
hundreds.
now, maybe I won't have it on time.
no,
But, anyway, there's a plan,
we'll look for it.
yes.
You gotta have a plan, I'll tell you.
You gotta have a plan,
You can't move forward without a
and then,
plan.
sometimes the best laid plans, but anyway. I don't think, I don't know where the audit stands. I know that there was a recent request for a document that was satisfied today, and I have not heard anything else from the auditors except for looking for that one report, so.
As long as they quit sending bills.
Right, they've said just another bill. And so it must be wrapping up. And I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody has.
No, I got no questions.
Anything, Chris?
Oh,
Lamar?
yeah.
Okay,
ask
so
you
this
guys.
being the first meeting of the month, let's move on to zoning inspector's report.
Okay, well, I issued a permit for a little storage building out on Fishworm Road. And then I had two gentlemen, one from Shook Construction and one from Jones and Henry Engineers, come in to pull a zoning permit to build the new water treatment plant for the village. And we filled all the paperwork, but they hadn't brought a check with them. So the permit still hasn't been issued. And they said they were going to either contact me and drop it off, or they were going to mail it. And I left Margaret a note to tell me if check came in the
That's
mail.
in the mail, I've heard that before.
So, the village apparently intends to build a water treatment plant, but I haven't given them my full blessing yet. It will be the largest value structure that I've ever issued a permit for. It's a
Mhm.
$5 million.
$5 million.
Big project.
Where would that be?
That's the same place where the water treatment plant is now.
Jacoby.
They're actually still, will be using part of the old plant and part of it will be torn down and replaced.
You're playing the thing.
McLean.
Okay, so that's it on the sort of standard office. Last Thursday, I believe, was zoning inspectors of Greene County at Regional Planning meeting, and we spent our whole 2 hours and maybe a little more discussing the ag tourism bill, which has passed all of a sudden after everybody thought it was, couldn't tell how long it was going to be stalled. Without trying to explain that document, and there's training available for all of you, how it right now affects Miami Township is probably not at all. We don't have anybody who's planned on or talked about, that I'm aware of, wanting to do some form of ag tourism on their farms. We have nobody that's been doing something that was, quasi-legal or not legal, that now would be justified. But that having been said, so it doesn't seem like a pressing issue to deal with. On the other hand, the bill gives township zoning the right to regulate some few aspects of this new use of land. We can't regulate where it takes place. If it qualifies by the bill as agricultural, it can happen. Doesn't make any difference what zone it is. But we can regulate how people get on and off the property. We can regulate the size of structures that are used. That's a little bit unusual because we don't regulate size of structures anywhere else. And setbacks, so where structures are on the property, we also can have control over. And if we want to do that, then we have to make amendments to our zoning code that include that information. It doesn't just automatically fall under some other category. And that process actually, even if you were to try to do it as expeditiously as possible, takes a couple of months. So we won't have something in place by the time this bill actually is effective.
Yeah.
But I told this to the zoning commission, and they said, well, let's discuss it at our next meeting, but they didn't feel pressured to, have a special meeting or do anything any more rapidly than that. And I think that that's reasonable. The final one, the other thing you'll learn about is just how has the state defined agritourism? And the way they define it, I'm going to do this very loosely, is any activity that you're going to conduct on your farm as a money-making activity for the public that is related to agriculture. And that's the key phrase. What is related to agriculture? If you have a corn maze, then I'm pretty sure most people say that's related to agriculture. But there are other people that think that if you have a wedding on your farm, somehow that's related to agriculture.
Or truck pulls.
Or truck pulls or whatever. But right now, the feeling among, let's just say Greene County Regional Planning and all of us is that activities related to agriculture, we don't have too much of a problem with. But when this bill was conceived, it had a much broader definition of agritourism. I think it almost even mentioned amusement parks and other things. And there are still people out there that believe that this bill has been passed and now they can do all sorts of things. And that's gonna get probably, for all of us, argued out in other townships here in Greene County, where there are already people having businesses that were quasi or not legal, and they will now argue that this bill makes them legal.
Yeah.
And how that's decided, whether that's a court decision or I don't know what, but that's on down the road a bit. It is interesting, you know, if we decide to regulate it, and someone comes in and says, I want to do thus and so, it'll either be up to me to say, nah, doesn't, you know, I don't think it matches the definition here that the state has provided us. Or, and of course, if I say no and they don't like it, they can always go to the BZA, and the BZA will have the opportunity to do the interpretation. And if they don't like the BZA, then it goes on to the courts. But, so, I also, you know, and, you know, let the BZA know that there was this training session available and passed copies of the bills out to them. So we're trying to get everybody up to speed. And those are the, okay, then the third activity going on, I guess you could say activity, you know, I don't know how many months ago it was, but we, and by we I mean cooperation with the building department and the prosecutor's office and the health department, kind of laid down the law to the Owens and how they were using their property. And there were several activities that immediately stopped, and the scale of the operation of the bed and breakfast was cut back, and everything seemed fairly comfortable until, well, a week ago this weekend, so 2 Saturdays ago, they had an event on the property that may have had on the order of 100 people. Now, I know from doing some research that it was not a wedding. It was an anniversary party for a local couple here in town. And I'm still working on making sure that it was not a business transaction. In other words, that they didn't rent the property or other services. But that's a little tricky because the anniversary party was done by the daughter of the couple that had the party, and she doesn't live here in town, so I don't get to just walk up and have a friendly chat with her. But I'm pursuing that. But we've got
Is this the event? Just I'm trying to get it.
Yeah.
Then we got the
28-car picture from
yeah,
Venice.
right.
Yes.
Okay.
It's that one.
Okay.
There actually have been 2 other that I have been made aware of events, one of which the neighbors didn't notice. And I forget about the in-between one. I never nailed down who that was about because this most recent one has eclipsed that one, apparently. But I had hoped that whatever activities were going to continue, whether it was exact the letter of the law or not, would be done in such a way that it didn't cause any disturbance. But this party on Saturday, even though there was no activity out on the circle, no trucks parked, no fireworks going off, no bands playing or whatever, you know, was, I guess, just loud enough or just whatever that some people noticed. And so I've now had calls from the people that thought it was the greatest party ever to people that complained about it. It's getting to be kind of like the Hatfield and McCoys out on Grinnell Circle, which is sad.
Is this part of your reference of the formal complaint?
Well, I had one person on Grinnell Circle say, I want you to, you know, finish out the details of the cease and desist. And one of those was the issue about the owner, you know, qualifying as the residents of the property. And
But you had mentioned in your correspondence,
yeah.
all the mills.
Okay, well, and then I had another person say,
Oh, okay.
you know, if people are gonna fuss about this, then, you know, I'm saying to you, I want you to check out the same details on the bill. I mean, that's the kind of.
But you know these details. I don't understand the question.
Well, here's what I'm working on, and I've already entered into a conversation with Stephanie. I said, okay, someone says, I'm supposed to see if our, part of our zoning code, which says I'd have to get the book out to quote it, but the resident owner runs the bed and breakfast, okay? Well, and, all right, do Eric and Deirdre Owen qualify as that? Oh, it's primary residence or something. Anyway, meet that. Well, we have no anywhere, not in our own code, not any generally accepted standard of what qualifies as something being your primary residence. Okay? In talking with Stephanie, she sort of said, well, this and this, and I fired back to her, well, if that's all it takes, then nobody has to be there.
I guess my confusion is, and I certainly understand the situation with that particular operation, but the other mills, or
The mill.
the other bed and breakfasts in the area have already, are meeting the requirement of the owner occupancy.
Well, the owner doesn't live in the mill.
I know, but that's how the BZA,
Well, I don't,
consented to its operation, the same with the water.
I actually don't know, and I do have minutes of that meeting, whether that issue was ever brought up. At the time that it was put into operation, there was someone living there.
It was certainly not the owner, and that was.
Well, no,
that
it was not the owner, I understand that, and I will say that if the BZA didn't specifically address that, that was my call, and I accepted that, that it didn't have to be the owner of the building that was living there.
Well, and I remember that particular event, at least part of it. The issues seem to me to be whether the township could be trusted to run the mill in a environmentally sound way.
I know, I just have bits and pieces of that here in my head. I wasn't particularly concerned
Right.
at that.
And the thing
time.
is that I, as far as Chris's point about owner occupied, I think that it was understood that the township owned the building and would not be.
All right, here's the difficulty. When you say it was understood,
Right.
all right, the Owens can say the same thing.
Right.
It was understood that we don't need to be there.
Yeah, I understand, and
Okay.
so what I'm saying is that even if you don't find specific references in the minutes, I wouldn't be surprised that they're not there.
Well, the transition that has occurred, both with the Owens operation and with the mill, is that they have switched from having somebody on the premises
Mhm.
when people are staying there, taking responsibility for what takes place,
Right.
all right, to basically, trusting the people that are there to behave properly and take
Right.
care of themselves if anything goes wrong and all the rest of it. And there is some argument to be who is the responsible party
Right.
I don't see
at
that
that
argument.
time. Well,
The code does not read that, a responsible party needs to be
no,
on
it
site.
doesn't read that.
Then why are you bringing that up?
All right, because I was asked, why doesn't the Grinnell Mill have an owner occupant?
You just said that originally it was assumed that there'd be a responsible party on site,
Well, I'm
overseeing
saying
what was
that's
going on.
my take on all this. I mean,
That's how
I
you
could
read-
have gone to
that's how you
Grinnell
read the
Mill
code.
the day, what's her name left, and said, you can't operate a bed and breakfast anymore because there's not an occupant.
That's ludicrous.
Well, all right.
Yeah,
Stephanie
legal
didn't say it
term.
was
The
ludicrous to have that in the code and
The BZA, signed off on the operation of the mill as it was presented, which
Right.
was not an owner occupant.
Right, but they also, if you say signed off on having a caretaker.
That was not a requirement.
But
What if we said that there was gonna be, 6 100,000 watt light bulbs, as security, and we only put 5 in?
then
There
you
was
would
no
be in
requirement.
violation.
There was no requirement for 100,000
No,
watt
the-
light bulbs.
Okay,
There's no requirement to have somebody staying in the facility.
all right. If we go by requirements, the code says owner occupied.
The BZA took that into
All
consideration
right, now,
and
okay,
signed off on
let
the
me
way
finish.
the way it was
All right.
presented.
If the BZA changes things from what the code says, which they can do, they have to spell that out. It can't be an assumption. I mean, if that is the case, then Eric can do anything he wants. Because he's assuming that the BZA said he could do it.
I'm not following that, I'm sorry.
Well, okay, I don't understand the difference between your interpretation of how the Grinnell Mill was presented to the Board of Zoning Appeals, and they're giving them the permission to operate, and Eric coming to the Board of Zoning Appeals and giving his spiel, and what
He never
BZA
told them that the owner would not be living and operating.
No, but he told them that he wanted to do all this other stuff, and
Well, I
my
don't
memory
know
was
about the
the
other
Board of
stuff.
Zoning Appeals said we cannot authorize all that stuff.
Okay, that's something
Okay.
entirely different.
Oh. Okay, I am not a lawyer, all right? When someone says to me, this, I think that someone is violating the code, all right? I read the code, and I try to decide whether they're violating it or not.
And you tell them that they're operating the way they consented the
Okay.
conditional use for the,
All right, and now
For
we're in an
business.
area of interpreting how the BZA is operated. I will go, as I say, there are minutes of the Grinnell Mill hearing. That's one that we have some written minutes for, if my memory serves me.
There should be a video on that one.
We were down there, was there a video down there in the basement?
Yeah, I think so, because, yeah, that was, I remember losing my temper a bit.
I don't know, I know we had two different meetings, as I remember. But anyway, and we can see what was said. Quite honestly, and we're learning fast in this contentious era, the processes that we have had for paperwork for BZA hearings have been lacking.
Right.
Okay, and that, that's going to have to change.
Yeah.
All right?
by golly, that's a good idea, Richard.
You like that? Okay,
Yeah.
and we've also had some, I don't know how else to say it than misfortune. We had a tape recorder at the Owens hearing. I don't know whether anybody was taking minutes of that, but that tape recording nobody can find it. I've looked everywhere that I can think to look for it,
Mhm.
and it doesn't seem.
That wasn't the one that Rhonda took minutes of, or?
No,
did
that
something?
was Bob Akums and
Oh, that's
the
right,
PUD.
that's right, I'm
No,
sorry.
and we did written minutes and the whole works on that one, no. I was so careful on that one because I wasn't there.
Mhm.
So, there's lots of sloppiness. What I have to figure out when it's appropriate for me to argue with people that are coming in, fussing for one thing or another, when it's appropriate to ask Stephanie for advice, when it's appropriate to if necessary, go to the Board of Zoning Appeals for an interpretation, which is their job. But it's, in terms of trying to administer the zoning for its intent. For example, as far as I can tell, our intent for bed and breakfasts was not to have operations to disturb the neighbors. Okay? Just simply,
Yeah.
nothing in there says anything other than people spending the night and having breakfast.
Well, that's the whole bedrock of zoning to begin with.
Right,
So
okay,
not
but-
disturbing their neighbors.
Right, and fortunately, the neighbors of the Grinnell Mill have been comfortable with what takes place there, but it's far more than people spending the night and eating breakfast,
Yeah.
okay? And that's nowhere in our code to hold events anywhere, free, paid, otherwise.
The person that complained about the Grinnell Mill, did they live nearby?
Yeah. But I don't think it wasn't a specific event at the mill, it was,
No,
you know,
it's
that
general.
if
you're gonna
one person's
apply
gonna
it-
fuss here, then I want the
Yeah.
law applied equally.
Right.
Or whatever, it might be worth to this discussion. October, the health board asked Stephanie for a definition of owner occupied.
Well, the health board did, okay?
In October.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know if she ever gave him anything in writing. Now, she may have been there and jabbered on like she does. But as far as I'm concerned, it has to be in writing before it's worth anything.
Right.
Now, she could have gone to the health board and gave her opinion, they wrote it down, and they said this is her opinion. But as far as I'm concerned, we need a definition from Stephanie, what owner occupied means. And so far as I know, we haven't been able to get it.
No,
Well, she just
well,
said that.
she talked about residency, okay, which is part of it. Resident, owner, and again, I'd have to get out the words. The zoning commission right now, in their review of the agricultural section of the zoning code, that's the first place that bed and breakfast show up. They're the, reference there from, let's say, the residential. So they are in the process of looking at that and trying to decide how to, if necessary, change the wording so that their intent, and they are the people that decide what the intent of the code is appropriate. And of course, if any changes, then we'll go through the whole public hearing process. And it doesn't change anything already in existence. Everything is grandfathered in, but it may make it clearer in the future why it says those words and what it means to meet that standard. Why it was used, whether it's appropriate, maybe it'll be taken out. Maybe it'll say, it doesn't make any difference who lives in the house, they can run a bed and breakfast. There are lots of arguments all different ways on it. But what probably needs to be done, and again, I think this will fall in the lap of the zoning commission, is to decide how the zoning code gets changed to make activities which we have all accepted in many situations, and even more than accepted, enjoy, also legal. Because, as I say, having any kind of a paid event is a commercial activity. Stephanie has said that flat out. And we don't have anything that allows non-agricultural commercial activity in agricultural districts or commercial activity in any residential district except for bed and breakfasts and home occupations. And that's naturally, in many ways, that's how bed and breakfasts have evolved, but the law hasn't kept up with
Right, I agree. Well, I encourage them to continue their efforts.
Well, the BCA can make a decision, I guess in my opinion, about each individual one, but not
it. No, not
everybody.
No,
Because
no,
it's not-
anybody can come to the BZA and ask for a variance, for example.
For
Say,
themselves.
I want something a little, in other words, you could come into the BZA and say, well, I'm running a bed and breakfast and, but I don't want to live here anymore. Can I have a variance so that so-and-so can live here, or it'll be done this way or that way? And they can grant that or not grant it, because that's their authority. Our code says the one thing that the BZA can't do is grant a use variance. In other words, they can't say to someone living in a residential neighborhood, you can open up an industry, or someone, you know. Now, strictly speaking, according to some legal sources, our code actually can't tell the BZA that they can't do that. All right, that the BZA is above everything. But on the other hand, as soon as you start allowing zones to be compromised by a 5-board decision, you're starting to compromise the whole zoning process. Because those zones have to be put in by a zoning commission and public hearings and trustees and public hearings, and it's a much more inclusive process. So changes in use probably, if it ever came before a BZA, would be looked at very, very, very carefully. Because it's kind of like spot zoning or
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely.
that kind of thing. But all the other details, you know, yes, they can vary them, and you know, possibly we could clean everything up by having everybody that's operating outside the law right now come to the BZA and asks for specific sanctions, terms, whatever, for what was appropriate. But as I say, there's some question about whether the BZA should let somebody have events. Because that's, as I say, it's a commercial activity. That our code doesn't exempt.
All right, shall we move on, or?
Yep, I think unless there's any additional questions for Richard in regards to zoning, if not, let's move on to new business. Any new business?
I have none.
I have none.
No?
Don't need old business either. I don't have any committee reports, we've already covered those too.
Those were last month,
The
yeah.
Wrapping it up.
Committee reports will be next meeting.
Do you have any motions that you'd like to present to the board?
How about emotions?
Yes, you do, Mark.
Yes, you do, Matt.
Yes, you do.
You have a motion you'd like to present.
I move we adjourn.
There you go.
And please second.